Welcome everybody. I'm really pleased to have you. Where's the camera actually? Where should I? Here for the people who are online. Oh, okay, perfect. So I'll just get my laptop very quickly. First of all, warm welcome from Merantix side here on the AI campus. We're really pleased to host all of you and to have you here. We have a little bit of issues with the presentation, so that's why I'm just freestyling a bit right now. So what do we do here at Merantix? We basically are building a platform and an ecosystem to scale AI use cases from research into production and to increase the impact of this technology and that it has in the world. And with this, basically, we do, first of all, some investing. So we incubate and build new ventures with founders. Many of them sit here on campus. I'm sure you'll have the opportunity also to meet some of them. Cambrium, alternative materials, Delta, production optimization, and so on. Then we have Merantix Momentum, which I founded, which is basically a service provider. We work with deep industry, so we help the legacy industry to basically get on this AI maturity journey. And the third is this beautiful campus that you're seeing, where we're building actually an ecosystem where we're inviting different players and where it's a space for collaboration, both physical and hybrid. Our perspective on the technology is basically the past 10 years, AI has created insights from pattern recognition. And in our view, this signifies about 1% of the value chain when you look at global value chains and value processes. And this is a target market of about $200 billion. Generative AI has basically now, I mean, some of you know this even better than I do. It's basically giving us a segue into starting to think, where AI is starting to think, combine, and create. And this is for us very exciting because it allows access to like a vast untapped majority of the value chain, which for us signifies 99% of the value chain, and is really very interesting also for existing industry. And this estimated market size is much, much bigger, with around $20 trillion. So just in case you're wondering why are we excited? Why should you be excited about this? I think you can see my slides at the moment. So the next slide is basically just a newscast, like last week in generative AI, right? And I mean, you all know it. It's basically 17 lines and you still haven't captured everything. And the week before was just as intense, and the week after also. So it's a very disruptive time, and this can also be quite challenging, right? This is one of the implications for industry, to actually stay on top of it and to keep, I would say, something like sovereignty of interpretation of what does all this change mean, right? Because it might be good headlines, but at the end you need to translate this into what actually creates business value. Another point for us is large language models are now being turned into more complex applications. So we find this very interesting for industry. We see, for example, the simulacra of human behavior. I don't know if you remember the SimCity simulation, but you basically have large language models generating prompts for these figures and developing whole strategies of how they behave and how you play the game. And it's quite amazing to see that the players in the game actually show very human-like behavior. So if you think about applications, I'm an economist personally, and microeconomics has tried to model human behavior for a long time, I would say semi-successfully. And this actually gives you a lot of opportunities, right, for policy making, but also understanding consumers, understanding a lot of people, customers better, that you're trying to understand. Also, you have things like diplomacy, right? So really understanding strategies, negotiations, repeated games better, which are important for many business situations and business decisions. Yeah, so that's something we find very, very exciting. The third point I want to make is basically on the applications that we can build now. When we're thinking about what we will create as innovation, or what the new releases of the new GPT models, will bring with them. it's quite exciting to see that a lot of the problems that we saw originally 3 months ago are already being worked on. And if we now imagine this something like OpenAI or another large language model combined with a bespoke data set from a law firm, combined with the fact that GPT can already pass the bar exam, I think at this speed of innovation, we're seeing very interesting applications that we're currently building and seeing events in the market. And I wanted to basically give like 4 top line trends that we find interesting and important in the coming months. So for us, one of the key applications is AI in decision making. So this will be basically a whole new level. As I mentioned before, this diplomacy game is not just NLP. Basically, NLP is not just deep learning, but you can actually drive complex decisions and strategies. So this will be, I think, a real game changer when you think about decision making in organizations. You can understand motivations and perspectives much better of players and model these. And I think that's something that will be very interesting for doing business and creating business impact. The second trend that we see that's interesting is that even these large models are starting to be commoditized. So we're seeing more open source, we're seeing platformization, we're seeing, and what does that mean for business? I think when we're thinking about large language models, it means creating unique data sets and having access to defensible data sets is very valuable, because that's how you can basically create a more defensible value with large language models by matching it with a data asset that only you have or only a limited amount of people have access to. Right? Think about the example of the law firm, for example. The third component, I think that we've already seen a little bit out of coming from this more model-centric world where we're, I don't know, a few years ago, we were all focused on building models, then that kind of became more commoditized. And then obviously data and data access is very important. And I would still stress that as to my previous point, but we also see interaction-based as like very important. And we've seen obviously the huge success of these direct-to-consumer applications that have just completely fired up the implementation, the penetration of usage of these AI applications, right? Because technically, if you've dealt with large language models a little bit longer, it was not a surprise that it could do all this, but the surprise is everybody can do it. Everybody and their grandmother can do it now. And so one of the big focus areas that we see for generating value with AI in businesses is essentially focusing also on interaction design and understanding how you include experts, how you include professionals on this journey and in the process. The fourth area that we're seeing come up, which I think is an interesting point, especially for startups and all the innovators based in Berlin and Europe, is the aspect of sovereignty, right? We're kind of realizing that these large language models, because they are such big platforms and the usage numbers are so high, are kind of turning into something more like critical infrastructure. That's kind of what it feels like. And there are many applications also in, I would say, defense critical sectors. And building them, you need strategic assets like chips, right? So all of these topics are kind of on the global map at the moment in different, I would say, nascent or dormant geopolitical conflicts, right? Where are chips being produced? What are discussions around these geographies? Where are models being built? What are sort of implications for Europe as a geography or Germany specifically? I think those are all trends to look out for. And I don't know, is the time over?
Oh, no, it's okay.
Okay, good. And I think one of the main points I'm trying to make is the take-home message here, I would say, is if you're a business today, you should definitely adopt this. There are all these studies, maybe you've seen them, but like there are studies that basically show the faster you absorb AI, the more dramatic your basically cash flow and your business success are being impacted. I think now is the time where many people have kind of realized this even more. And I basically brought an example of like kind of the Sears and Walmart, Target, Amazon. So seeing Sears that kind of invested quite late in Metascale and focused on providing big data and AI services, versus sort of Walmart, Target, and Amazon that very proactively invested in e-commerce, AI technologies since the early days. And I mean, Sears, you can't see the image now, but basically Sears is closed down, right? I think I don't want to like be in the fear mongering camp. I think this is kind of a very exciting time to be in the technology space. And I think the key message that I try to give, I don't know, everybody I meet, my parents, my family, companies we work with, I don't think AI will replace you, but I think people who know how to use it will replace you. That's kind of, I would say, the main key message. And that's why I think a motivation to kind of understand the technology better and drive adoption. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy your day at day at campus and the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much, Nicole, for your perspective. Thank you. We've all dealt with Microsoft before. It's a great mark of a good speaker to be able to do without a presentation. So thank you very much. For questions, if you'd just like to take for just 1 minute. Thank you. Well, are there any questions from the audience? Online? No, I don't think so either. Please go ahead. I'm sure your questions will be better informed than the ones I have. All right. In that case, Nicole, one question from me. We've spoken about fear-mongering, we've spoken about optimism, about the AI craze. Just yesterday, Joe Biden had a meeting with tech leaders where there was a decent amount of fear-mongering. At the same time, a certain amount of acceptance, tolerance. And so what would be your advice to business, to medium-sized business, maybe trying to inform themselves on AI, trying to inform themselves on where their path could be, where the next steps could be in this AI-driven world?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, getting to know the technology. So one thing is knowledge. I think what you understand, you fear a little bit less. Sometimes we have the, and I know some of the people fear-mongering right now understand the technology very, very well. But I think one thing is kind of getting to know what you're talking about. And I think that's something that we see in the market that a lot of companies also just don't have a plan. They haven't actually dealt with this technology yet. I would advise everybody, you know, there are many firms here, I'm sure, in the room and on campus and in other AI centers that can kind of help you understand the technology better. There are many events here and in other AI centers around the country. So get to know the technology, get to know the people who are building it, and then make a plan, right? I mean, you kind of, like everything new, you kind of have to make a plan and devise a strategy how you will deal with this and how this potentially can impact you as a business. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much. Valuable advice for all businesses. Thank you, Nicole.